over half of the marketers who responded cited the sales department as being the most difficult to work with. So, hey there, I'm Mags, also known as the Marketer Whisperer. If you've ever felt the doubts and pressures of leadership starting to sap your confidence and passion for this amazing job, then this podcast is for you. As a former marketer myself, I've lived through the chaos of consumer brands for over 16 years, so I do get what you're going through. And that's enough to leave any smart and driven marketer feeling like a burnt out version of their former self. But it doesn't have to be this way. So on this show, I'll be sharing pragmatic tips and also real stories to help you feeling confident, creative, and passionate about marketing leadership again. Welcome to the Marketer Whisperer. In each episode, I'll focus on a particular aspect of marketing leadership with backstories and practical tips to boost your confidence without sacrificing who you are. Now let's dive into this week's topic. Well, as a marketer, having a strong collaborative relationship with the sales team is really crucial for driving business growth, achieving shared objective and the annual goals. But it's a common challenge that often leaves marketers feeling frustrated. In a poll I've done on LinkedIn about 10 days ago, I've asked my marketer audience, which cross-function do you find most difficult to work with as a marketer? And basically, over half of the marketers who responded cited the sales department as being the most difficult to work with. So there was it's a small scale, 53 people voted, which is not too bad actually for LinkedIn, and 42% said sales. Then it was followed by finance, 30%. I do another podcast, I think, about that. Supply chain and demand planning as 21%, and the least amount of votes were category and shopper marketing with only 8%. And I do think that category and shopper marketing, those teams are seen as supporting teams. You know, there's no conflict. They are there to help, to make rationale stronger, to find insights, and they're really there. They're really collaborating with either sales or marketing, which is proven in this poll. But I then had further chats with some of these participants of the poll and former direct reports as well. All marketers to gather some insights, like qualitative comments about their answers to the poll. So my first point is, one of the recurring issues is the misalignment of expectations and priorities between the two teams. Sales are often hyper-focused on short-term revenue targets, according to marketeers, and may have unrealistic expectations for quick turnarounds on larger marketing projects or campaigns. And on the flip side, marketers tend to have a more long-term strategic outlook, aiming to build brand equity and nurture consumer relationships. Some of them said to me they're very short-term focused, whereas we think mid to long-term. Sometimes it means marketing focuses, our investments in key moments of the year, which leaves some months a bit dead, or with an always-on support, which we are blamed for as not enough. So that's the first point. The second point is that there's a disconnect between sales incentives and marketing objectives. A salesperson's compensation, depending obviously on organizations, may be tied solely to net sales figures, regardless of which products or ranges they sell in certain organization. Once again, in contrast, marketing goals could be centered around profitability and margin improvement. NPD launches, which may involve prioritizing specific high margin product lines, but these lines may not be easy or strategically helpful for the NAMs to push and reach the net sales growth. So the buyers that the NAMs deal with may also be demanding for, a totally different range to be prioritized because of their own goals and where they need to push the focus on. In this retailer specifically, which might go against what the product manufacturing organization doesn't want to do. So that may be going against the brand strategy plan. So some of them, when again in my conversation, one marketer explained to me their incentives are often not relating to the actual marketing objectives. For example, they'll be incentivized on net sales, whereas we could be targeted on improving the P&L, which sometimes is only possible by focusing on selling one subsection of our range. So this is a common tension that we see in some of these organizations. Point 3, there seems to be a knowledge gap between the two functions. Some marketers expressed surprise at the fact that their sales team has a lack of understanding of the critical market dynamics, such as category insights, competitive landscape, and the retailer perspectives. They mentioned to me that their sales team, because again, I'm not saying it's the same case in all organizations, but apparently it is in some. So those marketing leaders mentioned that their sales team were really pushing their organization's ranges and products and not talking the language of the retailer, by speaking from the retailer's point of view, which is the category, not the product. The retailer wants to drive their category, and they rely on all manufacturers to help with that. So these comments actually came more from senior marketers, I guess with their experience, or perhaps also because they have spent time as a NAM during their career, and therefore they really understand the ins and outs of that job. The damage of these very pushy conversations, when a NAM would only talk about the product of the organizations he or she works for, can be very detrimental and sometimes even favoring competitors, because if the competitors come in and speak the language of the retailer, they understand how to grow their category using their own product, that will land as a stronger message, and your own organization's range will be dismissed. You don't really get many chances with retailers. So to finish, it's a short episode, but there's a lot of depth of insight that I want to go through, and I'm going to have a chat. I'm actually already having chats with Christopher Ong, who's also a coach, and he's focused on national account managers. So we're perfect as a team to look into these issues. So to finish, I want to say that overcoming these challenges requires a concerted effort from both sides, sales and marketing. I'm obviously talking from the marketing point of view and how they can criticize the sales team in this instance. There's some, I don't want to say necessarily truth in there, but there's situations that have triggered marketers to think that way and to generalize the behavior and attitude of salespeople. And the other way around, I would love to hear this other side of the story. Marketers need to invest time in building stronger partnerships with their sales counterpart. This is really critical, not just when you need, an NPD push, to really create an open communication, because at some point when the trust, that's a big question actually, there's a big loss of trust between those two teams, and when trust is lost, both teams keep information to themselves. They don't necessarily share the reality or the insights that they've got, because they're afraid the other team is gonna use this information to their own benefit as opposed to the overall, organizations. So we need to create open communication channels and align on shared goals. So sales team, on the other hand, should be willing to adopt a more strategic and category-focused mindset and appreciate the long-term value that marketing initiatives bring to the table, because marketeers, whilst they might be not incentivized, but I guess bonused on this year's results, all their work is producing effects in the long term. Brands will die if we don't invest in their equity in the long term. So it's important that all initiatives and campaigns that we do one year are going to have positive effects in the long run. Otherwise, you'd be a yellow sticker brand on shelf, and there's just no point. There's no future really for you as a brand. And there was one marketing that put it that way, that the struggle they were going through is to get the sales team to sell with a category first mindset, saying, oh, this competitor product is rubbish. That's never going to go down as well with the retailer as they think. So there's really a lot of and I'm not saying the marketeers are perfect all the time. They may also entertain this kind of conversation. So those two teams need to be in sync and share common goals, understand each other's paths, the long term versus the short term, in order to produce really positive long-term effects. I hope it's been useful. I would love to hear your views on, if you are a marketer listening to this podcast, what do you think is the department that you find most difficult to work with, and what kind of insights can you give in order to elaborate on your view? I'd be super interested to hear it. All right, see you next week. Thank you for joining me on another insightful episode of The Marketing Whisperer. If you found value in this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a rating and a review on the podcast app of your choice. It really would help me reach more marketing leaders like you who could benefit from these insights in return. And I'd love if you would join upon my community of marketing leaders. All details are available on my website, startingblockscoaching.com. And lastly, if you're seeking one-to-one coaching, group workshops maybe for your team, leadership training, marketing expertise or career advice, basically everything that makes you a better marketing leader, feel free to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Search for Magali Leroux. I don't know how else to pronounce it to make it easier. Speak soon.